I think it's important to acknowledge how difficult it can be to set boundaries with other people. In part, perhaps because the diet culture is built around poor boundaries. It's built around the idea that your body is not only your business, and that there are likely people out there who know better what you need than you do. And in some cases, during our dieting careers, we might ask for people to be our food police. We might ask for that monitoring. Perhaps that is a way of feeling like we're taking control by saying, hey, if you see me eating bread, remind me I said I didn't want to eat bread. And then when we start intuitive eating, our needs change. And it can be confusing if we once asked for that type of policing, and now we're saying, actually, that wasn't even my idea. That was somebody else's idea, right? Now I'm trying to connect with my own ideas about food and eating. And when I'm talking to people about setting boundaries, we often come up with a couple of different things that we could say. And not saying something is an option too, just not responding. Because sometimes that silence and that refusal to absorb what somebody has said is a response. But if you're ready to think about saying some things, it is good to have some ideas. It could be, I'm trying something different, and the best way you could support me would be to just trust me. Just trust me and let me figure things out. Or, I know I used to ask for you to tell me when I was doing something that wasn't good for my diet, but I'm doing something very different right now. And so you can support me, because I know you love me and want to support me. You can support me by not commenting. That would speak volumes. But so come up with maybe 2 or 3 ways in which you might respond. So the words are there. Have the words ready. Maybe even practice saying them a couple of times. But then I think after the hard part of saying it comes the hard part of just sitting there. To say it, how you could really support me is by just not commenting on my food or my body. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. Just sit there, let them deal with it. It's not your job to manage their feelings about the boundaries that you set for your body. And it's okay if inside you're like, what? Oh my God, I can't believe I just said that. It's okay. Like anything, it gets a little easier or a little less difficult, if you want to look at it that way, just because your nervous system adapts to the discomfort. It doesn't feel so new. It's just like habituation, right? Just like me with my Reese's peanut butter trees. After 30 or so, there's less novelty. So after setting these boundaries and repeating it the same way maybe you in the past absorbed other people's comments, that becomes the new norm. It's all about neuroplasticity. And I think it's an important reminder that diet mentality took hold through neuroplasticity, through that repetition and immersion in a certain way of thinking. And neuroplasticity is our way out. But we have to be the ones leading the charge. And immersing yourself in a community like this is helpful, right? Being around people who get it. Being around people who are willing to step into that kind of sticky, icky situation and stay, just like we practice with meditation. So this week, consider 2 or 3 phrases and then visualize or practice saying them, and then just sitting in that discomfort of having asserted yourself. And I really think that the more we get comfortable with ourselves and our own needs and asserting those needs in a non-harmful way, primarily, I think in this context, a way that doesn't harm ourselves, the less difficult it feels. Because think about all the ways in which dieting encourages self-harm. It encourages that self-silencing. It encourages chipping away at the trust in your body and in your judgment. It encourages not elevating your preferences to a degree of priority. So in choosing not to diet, we're really committing to not harming ourselves. And that's a precept of a lot of traditions, yogic, meditation, not harming. And often we think of that in terms of not harming others. We are also an other. We ourselves are entitled to the same comfort we try to ensure for other people when we allow them to violate our boundaries. Absorb it, diffuse the situation, allow them to feel better about any awkwardness that ensues, as opposed to saying, that's not appropriate. It's not okay to make comments about my body. Even if we were just talking about something very intimate, like that comes up in a mother-daughter relationship, there's no transaction that's required that we give up boundaries and autonomy and that protection from self-harm or the harm from others. It can switch like that. It's a very weird, I'm not a therapist, right? So I don't have the right words to describe this. I don't understand the concepts the way somebody with therapy training does. But I see this happen in my own relationship with my mother, where it's almost like there's some kind of transaction that feels like it's happening. And you get to decide where the boundaries are. You might have a different boundary for one part of your relationship, like in how you manage like the discipline of your kids and whether you let your parents do some of that. And then a minute later, there might be something around your body or food or eating that comes up and you have a different boundary. No. And you're entitled to turn on a dime like that. You are. And the more you feel entitled, the more you can develop ways of being compassionately assertive instead of aggressive. Because sometimes when you don't feel entitled, you absorb and absorb and absorb, and then eventually it just like busts on out because you can't take it anymore. And then it comes across as aggressive, and then you feel like, oh no, I wasn't entitled to that because now I've harmed somebody by responding aggressively.